The views and opinions of the guest do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of BODS Mayhem Radio Network, its staff, affiliates, or sponsors. Parental discretion is advised. Welcome to BODS Mayhem Radio Network.
Hey, this is Jeremy Wagner, horror author and guitarist for Broken Hope, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour, your source for all hard rock, heavy metal, new metal, alternative, punk, horror punk, hardcore, rock, and all local bands, with your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather.
Hey everybody, welcome to BODS Mayhem Hour. I am your host, John the Bod, a.k.a. the Bodfather, and as always, I'm bringing you guys and gals awesome interviews. Today, it's an honor and a privilege to welcome back Mr. Jeremy Wagner. He's the guitarist of Broken Hope and horror author. But today, we're going to be talking to him about his new novel. Jeremy's new novel is called Rabid Heart, is out now, and was released via the Afraid imprint of Riverdale Avenue Books. Also, the Afraid imprint of Riverdale Avenue Books will re-release a revised edition of the Armageddon Chord in December of 2018, which is going to be next month, folks, so check that out, with new cover artwork and more. The Armageddon Chord peaked at number 4 on Barnes & Noble's top 10 paperback bestseller list and peaked at number 9 on Barnes & Noble's top 100 overall bestseller list in the first week of release. The novel also earned a Hiram Award, a first-round ballot Stoker Award? Is that right, Jeremy? Stoker?
Yes, sir. Yeah, Stoker, like Bram Stoker, Dracula.
Stoker Award nomination and received critical acclaim in Publishers Weekly and Rolling Stone, among many other worldwide media outlets. In addition, renowned visual artists Chet Zar and Jeremy, this is cool, guys. They are going to present a CONJOINED versus GROTESQUE group art exhibit. So that's going to be featuring Sean Cran of Slipknot, Jay Weinberg of Slipknot, Ben Scotter. I know I'm pronouncing these names wrong, but I do it anyway. But I screw everything up, so trust me.
You're good.
We'll get into all this, but nevertheless, Jeremy and Chet are going to be putting on an art exhibit, and that's going to run January 19th through February 16th of 2019, and that's going to be, I think, after the NAMM show. Is that right, Jeremy?
Yeah, that art show that we're doing, CONJOINED versus GROTESQUE, that's kicking off right around the same week as two things, the NAMM show and the LA Art Show. So a lot going on, so we're trying to combine synergies with all that stuff and weave it into the art show. And as you're reading some of the names, you can see it kind of fits together because we've got some artists that are obviously from some big metal bands, Slipknot, being one of them. And then some of the other artists in the show have done many different album covers. So you got Wes Ben Scoter, who's done the last few Broken Hope album covers, and he's done covers for Slayer, worked with AC/DC, and tons of other death metal bands. You got Ed Repka, who's done work with Megadeth, Municipal Waste, and many other bands, and Dan Seagrave, Rob Smith, tons of artists that are, tied into the metal world, the music world, musicians themselves, and then just straight up just dark artists, so if anyone listening is fans of the great H.R. Giger, who created Alien and all that visual dark imagery and that type of stuff is what this show is all about. So it's really cool.
I hope folks realize that these musicians, not only are they musicians, but they're artists too. Some of them paint, some of them sculpt stuff. And it's cool to see that you guys are bringing this together, because I know Sean Cran from Slipknot, man, he's done some crazy, crazy stuff, which is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, I was really surprised with Sean's artwork because I know that Sean, a.k.a. Clown of Slipknot, had done some really cool visual stuff with film before. I know he did a movie, I think it's called Officer Down, was a film he did, and he'd done visual stuff for Slipknot and whatnot, and he's definitely a true artist. He's also a great photographer, but two pieces were brought to my attention that he did. One is actually a sculpture, and one's like a painting, and I was really impressed, and it totally fit the vibe of the show. And then out of the same Slipknot camp, their new drummer, Jay Weinberg, is just an incredible artist. Actually, it was Jay's artwork that was first brought to my attention. We have the same publicist, and I saw his paintings. I'm like, man, I'd like to have him in the show. And then I started talking to Jay and working out what piece or pieces he's gonna, submit for exhibit at this thing. And next thing I know, Sean Crayon, Clown, also came up in conversation, and I saw the pieces, and I'm like, wow, this is awesome. I got to tell you, honestly, when I hear of musicians doing art work, I'm kind of reluctant, because I've seen like artists that, are musicians that out of nowhere are like, oh, I'm doing an art exhibit. So like one of the dudes from, I remember years ago, Bon Jovi, was suddenly an artist. And then I think Bill Ward and Jason Newsted, all these guys are doing art and stuff. And it's like, the thing that I'm reluctant about is like, I never heard of these guys doing art. Are you a brand new, now amateur artist getting away from the music business? And, is it a hobby more than really a serious career, if you follow me? So it's like, I'm like, okay, are you guys really artists or not? But when it came to Jay and Sean, man, these dudes, they're like legit. I mean, they've been doing art their whole lives. And, Sean's always pushing boundaries and trying new things. And he's really got his fingers in a lot of different aspects of art. So, that just blew me away and was really appealing. And, not to sound like a snob, like I look down on, any other musician's art, but my wife and I were serious art collectors, and my wife, she's, got a degree in art and all this stuff. So when it comes to art and the business and that whole world, I take it very seriously. It's just another aspect of my life. So when I'm curating an art show, and this is the first time I've ever curated an art show, and for me it's a huge honor. The gallery we're doing it at, Copro Gallery, is very well respected and does amazing stuff. So this whole thing, it's an honor, and again, I take very seriously. So the artists that I choose are like, really based on their career and the type of art that they offer. There's this dark art theme going on, and each one that I basically cherry picked is someone who has brought to the table just amazing artwork in whatever medium it is, and has a real name with what they do. So all that stuff is more important to me than popularity or where you come from. So again, it just blows me away seeing that these guys really really create some other stuff outside of music that is just amazing to behold. Retinal delights, I call
them. What was the appeal, Jeremy, that got you into horror movies and then to start writing or even think of writing a novel or book? Let's go down that road a little bit.
Sure. Well, it goes way back to me being a kid, and a young kid at that. At as far back as I can remember, going way back, say around age 3, my earliest memories of being into horror and writing and just books goes back to that age. So at age 3, I was always reading books. I was a really, I don't know, I guess you'd say I was just a really literate child, and I loved books. And I also loved Halloween and dressing up, and I started getting into, you know, spooky, scary stuff. All that stuff always appealed to me, you know, whether it was cartoons, you know, back in the early 70s, like every Saturday morning was cartoon day, and I really love those classic Warner Brothers, you know, Bugs Bunny, Looney Tunes,
yes, sir,
cartoons, and you know, I remember a lot of those had you know, monsters and mad scientists and haunted castles and stuff. Those were always my favorite types of cartoons, you know, and Scooby-Doo, you know, Scooby-Doo was always on, and that was always, you know, creepy stuff, monsters, ghosts, everything. So that really appealed to me. It struck a nerve, had a real profound effect on me as a child. So I'm into scary stuff, creepy stuff, and more, and then as I got to about age 5, I was reading at more of an advanced level, and I actually started reading my mom's paperback novels that she had at the house. And my mom, she's always been a big bookworm, and she likes mysteries and horror and all that stuff. And I think the first novel, like adult novel I ever read, was around 1975, when I would have been about 5 years old. And it was the paperback edition of Jaws that came out right around the time the movie Jaws came out. And I just remember reading that book. I totally got it. You know, there's some adult things going on as a kid you're like not quite sure of, but I got the gist of it. I love that, and I just kept reading more and more. And then the next thing you know, in the 70s, Stephen King came out with his first book, Carrie, and my mom had that, and I remember reading that book. And you know, I can say I'm legitimately, you know, a Stephen King fan since I was a child. Mm-hmm. So, and it just grew from there. And also around that same time, my grandmother gave me this hardcover writing book. So basically, imagine like a small, you know, trade paperback sized hardcover book with blank lined pages in it, like you'd have in a spiral notebook. Yeah. But this was hardcover, and on the outside it said "My Book," and my grandma gave it to me, and I actually started writing. I did two things. I used it for a diary for certain things, you know, like when I was in grade school, but I also used it to write my first stories. And no surprise, my first stories I ever wrote were about monsters and stuff. And I was also so obsessed with Jaws, between reading the novel Jaws by Peter Benchley and seeing the movie Jaws. So I started writing my own sequels to Jaws, like before they ever had like Jaws 2 or Jaws 3 or anything. I was already like writing Jaws 2 and Jaws 3 and stuff. So that's all where everything started, man. The seed was planted a long time ago when I was a child. So with the horror seed and the writing, you know, book loving seed, all that stuff started at a young age. And then as I grew older, I just kept on writing more and more short stories and stuff. So I always tell people I've definitely always been a writer, and I was a writer before I was ever a musician. It wasn't until like I was in my mid-teens, you know, like 14, 15, that I really got serious about wanting to be a guitar player, like a metal guitar player. Mm-hmm. And that's due to me. I had guitars, but like I never took them seriously. I was like, oh yeah, I want a guitar. And, you know, I had an acoustic guitar, my first electric, but I didn't take them serious enough. I didn't take lessons or anything. And then Metallica's Ride the Lightning came out, and that album just changed my life, man. And when I heard Ride the Lightning, I'm like, I'm going to be a metal guitar player, you know, like James Hetfield and Kirk Hammett. I'm going to do this. I've never heard music like this in my life. And that's when I took guitar seriously, took lessons, and then vowed to, you know, form a band. And all that good stuff. So, and then in 1988 is when I formed Broken Hope in high school, and, you know, the rest is history. Here we are 30 years after I formed Broken Hope in 88, and, you know, still touring and putting out albums and all that good stuff. But, you know, with Broken Hope, staying on the subject of writing, you know, I've always written all the lyrics for Broken Hope as well. So I was able to take my passion for writing and, of course, writing horror into Broken Hope, because, you know, Broken Hope, death metal band, we have definitely horror imagery since day one, and so that all kind of worked out pretty cool. So, yeah, and then here we are. I've got my second novel out, Rabid Heart, came out a month ago, and I've got a couple more books on the table that are already done. You know, I'm just, what I tell people, I'm a horror kid. You know, I still have this, the horror kid is still in me. And it's like, I just, you know, I like writing dark fiction. I got too many ideas, bro. I got an overactive imagination, you know, and it's like any kind of form of art, you know, whether you're a guitar player, writing music, a sculptor, a painter, photographer, whatever, writing books, writing novels of the dark fiction variety is my art, you know. It's a big passion of mine, and if you can find something in life that you love to do that much, man, that makes life even better, you know. Even with your show, you know, you obviously do it because you enjoy it,
yes,
you
sir.
know, and as I see you've been doing it a while too, I was really impressed. I checked out your website and stuff. So everyone, you know, life is short, man. You know, do what you love in life and make the most of it.
That's right, because the next 5 minutes is not guaranteed, or the next breath you take is not guaranteed, and that's the sad part.
That's for sure.
You know, it's tough, folks. Jeremy's right with Broken Hope. They've done some horror related stuff in their music, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're a big John Carpenter fan, and you guys did a song about the fog for Carpenter, correct? You guys did a tribute song for the fog.
Oh, it was actually for John Carpenter's The Thing.
Oh, The Thing, that's
And
right.
that
The Thing, that's right.
Yeah, and that was by the way, though, The Fog is definitely one of my favorite horror movies too, and it's one of my favorite Carpenter films. The Fog is great.
Yeah.
But The Thing to this day, John Carpenter's The Thing remains my favorite horror movie of all time. And you know, for years I'd been playing around with the idea of like doing a song about The Thing, just a song, you know, lyrically. And I've been hashing out ideas for that, The Thing song, for God, probably 15 years. You know, I'm going back to like 2002 or something, you know, when I first started writing like the first drafts of lyrics for my Thing-based, Thing-inspired lyrics, and which I still have. And it never really went anywhere. Of course, Broken Hope also went on hiatus in 2002. So I had all these lyrics and riffs that I wrote from between 2002 and 2012 that I didn't do anything with until the band came out of hiatus and we did the Omen of Disease album. So fast forward to 2017, Mutilated and Assimilated turned out to be a real tribute to John Carpenter's The Thing. The title of the album and the title track, Mutilated and Assimilated, are all about The Thing. And even the cover artwork by Wes Benscoter, when you see it, you're actually looking at like The Thing as it's transforming into 1,000, you know, different life forms from all these planets that it's been on. It's truly horrifying to behold. You know, it's like you just stumbled upon this thing under Antarctic ice, and it's just crazy and cool. But anyway, so we took John Carpenter's The Thing, made it the title track, did the artwork as a tribute to him, and there's also an instrumental piece called Beneath Antarctic Ice. And it's on there, and that's just an instrumental. But again, it's, you know, a total salute to The Thing, and I think it turned out really well, man. I'd never done anything like that. You know, written some lyrics that were inspired by horror movies over our, discography and all that good stuff. But never have we done like a tribute, album-wise to a specific movie. So that was a first for us. And it was a lot of fun to do, a lot of fun to, for everyone to do. And, it's just another chapter in our Broken Hope book. And I hope if John Carpenter has seen it or has yet to see it, I hope he digs it and appreciates us saluting him, because that movie, man, to this day, in my opinion, cannot be touched. There's no movie like it, dude. Still my favorite.
See, this is why me and Jeremy gets along really well since 2017, the first time I interviewed him. It's because he likes Carpenter films. I love Carpenter films. He's a Metallica.
You got good taste.
He's a Metallica fan. I'm a huge Metallica fan. We bond. We're bros.
That's right.
So, you liked The Thing. That was your Carpenter deal, and mine was the Halloween series. That's mine. I do like the other ones. I do like The Fog. I do like The Thing. I do like the rest of Carpenter's films that he's done. But have you got to see the new Halloween? If so, what's your take on it, man?
I have not. I have not seen the new Halloween. I was supposed to see it when it came out. Then I've been traveling, and so I'm not even. I haven't been there a theater or anything yet. So I can tell you this: I've heard mixed reviews.
Yeah.
And I should rewind real quick and be clear. John Carpenter's Halloween. So The Thing is like my favorite horror movie, and then like Halloween's probably my second favorite. So like Carpenter is always, he's got movies and like, my top 5 favorite horror movies. Halloween, the original Halloween scared me more than any other movie in my life. I mean, it scared me more than The Exorcist, which everyone says is the, most terrifying movie of all time. Dude, Halloween, between Michael Myers, the story, and the friggin' score, the music, to the movie, the music alone is terrifying. To this day, to me, it's just, that music is incredible. And that is a John Carpenter masterpiece. Also, I'll go a little farther with you. When Halloween came out in the 70s, just like Jaws, there was a paperback novel of Halloween that went along, with the movie. And I read that and saw the movie as soon as it came out. And that novel was fantastic. So anyway, I'll tell you though, man, I just want to be clear. I have a huge love for Halloween. But, so this new Halloween, I'm dying to see it, man, because you got John Carpenter, you got Jamie Lee Curtis back. It's storyline, I guess, is like 40 years after all the shit went down in Haddonfield, Illinois.
Yes, sir.
Michael Myers gets out. Also, the dude, can't remember his name, the guy who actually played Michael Myers in the first movie, reprises, his role as, the guy wearing the mask and the
Nick Castle.
Jumpsuit and all that shit. Nick Castle, yeah. So, like, all that stuff to me, bro, is, like, too cool, man. Like, it's like someone said, let's put the old band back together. and here we go. So, with that, would you mind telling me what you thought of it?
I have not got to see it yet either, because I was not going to fight the crowd.
You're in the same boat I am.
Yeah, I was not going to fight the crowd. I'm going to wait till it comes out on DVD, but I hate seeing all these mixed reviews. Some say they hate it, some say they love it. I mean, my God, folks, it's not going to be the savior of horror movies. It's going to be a horror movie. It's
right.
What it is. But I will say this, from what I can gather and what I have seen, is that, it takes place 40 years after the first one. Pretty much throw the rest of them out the window, and this is where you need to take off from. And supposedly, they make no reference in this movie of Michael and Laurie being brother and sister. So that's out the window too, supposedly.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I was like, well, what the hell? Because if I'm not mistaken, did they not say they were brother and sister in the first movie? The first original? I'm sure they did, because I'm pretty sure that they did, actually.
Yeah, I think Falk is like Laurie Strode, and her father was a real estate agent.
Right.
And she was going up to the old Myers house. And yeah, there's something in there. If my memory serves me right, that was revealed in the first one. I'm pretty sure, man.
See,
but
yeah, I agree.
Another thing, I'm a stickler too for like, man, I sound friggin' stupid guessing at that. I should know, but Halloween 2, what gets me is this: Michael Myers in Halloween 2 at the end, Dr. Loomis shoots Michael Myers like in both of his eyes with like a .44 Magnum. So, and he's still coming. So he's blinded for one. I mean, the rounds from that gun would have blown any normal human head off. That would have been it. But he's still alive. His eyes are blown out. And then Dr. Loomis, does the gas release and blows up the room, and Michael Myers is completely consumed by fire and then collapses and burns at the end. So my question is, what the hell happened to his eyes, his head, and then his entire body? Shouldn't he be burned to a crisp and blind by this point?
Yeah,
that's all. Hey, I'm asking obvious questions. I'm not a forensics guy. I don't know what happened after that. Maybe it's revealed in the new Halloween, that we haven't seen yet. I think that's worth revisiting. Like, how do you explain what happened to the dude's body, and how did he get locked back up in a sanitarium?
Yeah,
that he's in 40 years later. I wanted all those puzzle pieces because I'm not clear on any of that stuff.
Yeah.
Halloween 3 had nothing to do with the Michael Myers story. So, and being old school, and there's been those Revenge of Michael Myers and all that stuff. And I like to look at it this way, bro. Halloween 2 is the last night he came home, and let's leave off with there. 40 years later to this new movie. I'd like to see all the ducks in a row and answer some questions.
Yeah. I agree with you, man, because Loomis shoots him. He goes, I shot him 6 times. I shot the devil 6 times.
That's right.
Like, no, Loomis, you shot him more than that, brother. But, supposedly the eye that Laurie stabbed him in, or the eye that's supposedly affected in this one. So, and, they took it to the step of making him kind of supernatural too, which was kind of okay in a sense with me, but still, I like that old slasher deal where, they came back. But, that's just me.
Right. I would say this, though, man. That's another, just going back to John Carpenter, man, he really is like a horror master because, the Thing was basically a remake, of The Thing from Another World, which came out in like the 50s or something. And he took it to the next level. And he liked that whole idea and the synopsis. It's a great story, and he did great stuff with that. But Halloween, you got to give him credit. He created that, man. Him and Deborah Hill, they wrote that thing together and created it, and and then of course Carpenter directed it. So the dude is really just amazing. He really is. When you think, and shit, he wrote that freaking music on top of it.
He sure did.
I mean, look at that.
Yeah, he sure did.
The dude's amazing. That's all.
Folks, we're going to have our own show about Carpenter stuff.
I know. We got the BODS Wagner horror show.
We should do that.
Start dissecting every friggin' movie. Right?
So what's impressed or excited you the most, man, about the new novel Rabid Heart? What's caught your eye about it the most, if anything? What sticks out for you?
Well, there's a couple of things about the whole, what I call the Rabid Heart journey, from writing it to seeing its publication. This book actually started out as a short story, and it had a completely different title, and it was only meant to be like, 5,000 words or less, and it was going to be for submitted to an anthology, a zombie anthology some years ago. So when I started writing it, it took on a life of its own, and I couldn't end it. You know, it kept going and going. And by a certain point, I was getting into, you know, heading towards novel length territory. I'm like, well, yeah, this is definitely a book. This is no short story. And I actually had to put the you know, the current version of Rabid Heart at the time on the side and go back and write a zombie short story for that anthology, because I was committed to providing, you know, a story for it, and I wanted to get in there, and that all worked out. I did do a short story that was actually a totally different type of zombie story. It was more of a Haitian voodoo zombie type of thing, so rather than, you know, zombies coming up from their grave and stuff. So I got that out of the way, and then I at the time, right after that short story was, you know, sold and published, I had that out. My first novel, The Armageddon Chord, was like taking over my life. So I was focused on, you know, polishing it up with some edits and stuff. I had just signed a new book deal with a publisher who was going to put out The Armageddon Chord. So I'm, you know, doing editing and revising for it per the instructions of my publisher and getting that all cleaned up. And then, you know, when that was set up, there was the official book announcement for The Armageddon Chord, and I just went down a rabbit hole doing, you know, press and book signings. You know, the book came out, and it did really well, and it was great. So basically, the point of telling you all that is Rabid Heart was sitting there for a long time, unfinished, and waiting for me. So after The Armageddon Chord came out and I did all that promo, I had another book that was actually finished as well that I had to edit, and that one hasn't been published yet. That's one of the ones probably coming out in the next year or two. Mm-hmm. And then this band, Broken Hope, that I'd had on hiatus forever, in 2012, came back into my life full force, and we signed a new record deal with Century Media Records and did a world tour. And then next thing you know, the following year, we wrote and recorded an album, and I've been doing that. So during all that time, figure, you know, 2011, The Armageddon Chord came out till now. So the last 7 years, I haven't stopped writing anything. I published a bunch of short stories here and there. I published an essay with Phantom Books and on horror writing and stuff. And of course, I've done tour after tour after tour with Broken Hope, and album after album with Broken Hope as well these last several years. And during that time, though, in between all that crap that was consuming my life, I did make time to finish Rabid Heart and edit it and polish it up and all that stuff. And here we are, 2018. Earlier this year, I got a new publisher, and they bought Rabid Heart. That's Riverdale Avenue Books / Afraid Books. And they also bought the rights to The Armageddon Chord, and that's why that's being re-released. And that'll have a new cover and everything. So with all that, to answer part of your question, like that first initial writing of Rabid Heart, seeing it take on this life of its own, and then, you know, being put on the back burner for a while and then coming back to it and see it published. I mean, all of that is, for me, pretty amazing. And Rabid Heart's a really important book to me. You know, it's something that never left my mind or you know, my blood, really. You know, I just knew it was a special book, and I would find a day when it would be finished and find a home and be published. Now, with all that, look at this, bro. Since I started Rabid Heart, a lot of shit's happened in horror with zombies, right? Like right now,
yes, sir.
The world's like oversaturated in every way, shape, and form you can think of with zombies. I'm talking between the Walking Dead TV series, 1 million zombie movies have been made since 2011. Mm-hmm. Comic books, toys, you know, theme park rides, everything you can think of has zombies in it. And one of my fears was, wow, I'm coming back with this book that had a really original idea for a story in 2011 or so, and now what? Is it going to get lost in the shuffle because people are sick of zombies? Well, one of the most rewarding things right now has been people have really embraced the book between fans, readers, and also horror culture, entities, like Rue Morgue magazine, Fangoria, Scream magazine, horror sites, and then the publishing world too. Publishers Weekly, Kirkus Reviews. Everyone's really embraced Rabid Heart and have, in not so many words, said in reviews, hey, the zombie genre might be dead to some, but Jeremy Wagner's Rabid Heart is a breath of fresh air with an original story, unlike any other, zombie-related book or anything out there, which, dude, makes me so freaking happy. And the other thing is, people, when you read Rabid Heart, people see the book is really about Rhonda Driscoll, the main character, and everything she's experiencing, which is, really going through hell in this book and having some of the most over-the-top situations and things happen to her, and you see how she gets through these insane things and survives. The whole undead, the rabid that are nicknamed Cujos, these, like violent, zombified people that are, all over the world. That horror and all that stuff is just the backdrop. The story is really about this young woman and how she's going to survive in this freaking horror world that she's in. So with that, I'm just delighted that readers again and reviewers and everyone seems to really understand that. And they see this isn't just like a typical, gore-soaked, cliched zombie book, which it isn't. So that's the other part of my answer to your question, and seeing where Rabid Heart's gone. And I'm telling you, man, I couldn't be happier,
And you're so right with everything being oversaturated with zombie this, zombie that. And I used to love The Walking Dead when it first came out, and then now it's like a damn soap opera. I just wish it'd go back the way it was, but that's just the way it is. But I don't watch The Walking Dead no more. I still love my zombie stuff. Trust me, I still love it. But there's just so much that you could do with zombies, man. That's just it.
Yeah.
It's like bring back this like create a new slasher. Let's create a new slasher or serial killer that's gonna, be the next big thing possibly. I like to see that happen.
Yeah, me too.
For you, man, how has it been working with the Afraid imprint of Riverdale Avenue Books with those guys picking these two books up for you? How's working with them?
It's been great because the CEO, owner of Riverdale Avenue Books, her name's Lori Perkins, and she's actually been like a long-time literary agent before, starting Riverdale Avenue Books like 8 years ago. She started that publishing company. But before that, she was this literary agent for like 30 years. And, man, she must have sold probably 10,000 books in her career. #1 New York Times bestsellers to just tons of horror stuff. And that's one of the things about her that I always admired Lori, was she was this big advocate for horror fiction. So she had a real impressive roster of horror authors, and she knew that genre really well. You know what I mean? So I'd known Lori before she started this company, and I just, always admire her. I always kind of looked up to her. It was always like, man, that would be the best agent you could have for horror fiction, or really any book. She was just such an amazing literary agent. So, going forward in time, she starts this company, Riverdale Avenue Books, and I had nothing to do with that publishing company because I was with a different publisher back when she started that. As time went on, her company grew bigger and bigger, and she was doing all these different genres of books and stuff at Riverdale Avenue. And then just I don't know, man. It's like timing's everything. I wasn't with my first publisher anymore. They're gone. They went out of business, and I got the rights back to the Armageddon Chord. I had Rabid Heart, and I just started talking to Lori again, and she's like, I got this imprint called Afraid that we just launched, and I want to make it a true horror line. And she was putting out horror books, but she really wanted a dedicated line to horror fiction. So Afraid Books was launched, and I happened to be a free agent then, so we worked out a great deal, and that's how Rabid Heart became published and how they acquired the rights to the Armageddon Chord and for re-release. So I can say right now, man, it has been a real pleasure already working with them. I mean, the amount of advertising and marketing that they've done for Rabid Heart, I've never seen before with my previous publisher. They got the book everywhere. They got the best distribution you could get. And on top of it all, again, Lori's like a veteran in the publishing business, and she's got her finger on the pulse of everything. And so does her staff, at the publishing house. So, that what more could you ask for as an author, to have even, independent publishing house with great distribution, knowledgeable, veteran staff and people there who actually love horror fiction and get it, because you like my type of stuff, like even my lyrics, I write some pretty effed up material sometimes, and that's not for everyone, even at a publishing house, people, look at you like you got three eyes or something, but they totally get it. And they know that there's readers out there who love that stuff. Yeah. And again, they know how to market it. So, bro, I'll tell you, man, it's been just a real pleasure. I'm real fortunate to have hooked up with Riverdale Avenue. So it's been going good. And, the book's only been out like a month or so, but I've been again, receiving reviews in every way, shape, and form between, the publishing world, magazines, trade magazines, to horror culture magazines. And I've been doing book signings and book readings too over the last month, from LA to Chicago and more. And man, I mean, again, I couldn't ask for more. It's really been good so far.
When you write your novels or your books, do you put yourself as that individual or creature your book is about to kind of go through it in your own mind as you take along that journey?
Yeah, I most definitely do. Between the protagonist, the good guy or the good girl, and the antagonist, being the bad guys, monsters, whatever, I'm constantly putting myself into their shoes, because when I write about them in the book, I'm writing from their point of view. So I'm writing about what they're experiencing, from what they see, what they feel, emotionally, physically, what their thoughts are, their deepest desires, their, opinions, their motivations, everything. I'm experiencing that, as what's flowing out of me is their experience, from my mind through my fingers into the word program as I'm writing the book. So, so I'm living the characters, from my mind's eye onward, and I'm also, like, how would I explain it? I have a full understanding of, I guess, who they are. Even if they're a super horrible, bad character, part of me, I guess, sympathizes with sometimes what they're going through, even if they're doing really bad things, because I'm really close to the characters. And then moreover than all that too, in some way, shape, or form, somewhere in anything I write is a little bit of, like maybe something I've experienced or whatever. There's a saying, a famous saying for writers is to write what you know. So like with the Armageddon Chord, I'm a guitar player, so the main character is a guitarist. So that was pretty easy about writing what you know. With Rabid Heart, I'm not a 21-year-old, hairstylist chick from North Carolina, but I've known some, so, and I've dated some, so in that respect, write what you know, right?
Exactly.
So there's little things I have relationships to as well. So, yeah, all the characters and anything I write about are really close to my heart because I'm writing what I know, and I'm also experiencing everything they're doing, just like the reader. You know, when the reader's reading my book, they're going through that character's point of view and all that good stuff, and experiencing it too. But when I'm writing, I'm really experiencing it because those emotions and actions, again, those are flowing out of me. You know, the characters are taking on their own life, and I'm just like, wow. You know, I'm living this like I'm the character as I'm writing. It's kind of crazy, but it's also really cool. So, yeah, I'm really tight with that stuff.
Is there anything, and I'm sure that they are, is there anything you find particularly challenging in your writing, or do you try to up the game in that next book or novel that you're writing? Do you find those bumps you have to just take a break, then come back?
Yeah, what I do is when I'm writing a work in progress and really throwing myself into the book or story I'm writing, short story, novel, whatever. Well, let's say specifically to novels. I'm so immersed in that novel because I'm writing every single day until that novel's done. So say it takes me 3 months to do a first draft of a novel. And in that 3 months, I had started the book and I just continued writing every day, say 1,500 words, 2,000 words a day, going and going and going, living these characters, getting the story out until I get to the point where I'm like, okay, this is the end, boom.
Yeah.
What I do then, man, is I am so drained by that point and, so not fried, but just, I just live this first draft for 3 months straight. That's all I've thought about and all I've worked on. I take that first draft and I put it to the side, set it down, and I start working on a totally new book. The new book is, great because it's fresh. It's a new idea that I'm excited about, and I want to dive in and do what I did with the last one. I'm going to write it, live it, love it until the first draft is done. And then what I do is I set that one down, and then I go back to the first one to start rereading it and revising it. And when I do that, bro, that book is brand new. That book that took me 3 months to write, that totally had me drained and kind of burnt out on at the end, is brand new, fresh, and exciting again. And I start reading it, and I'm like, this has happened every time. I'm like, holy shit, I can't believe I wrote this. This is like, brand new to me. And then there's stuff in the book like I've either, forgot about or whatever. And that's really an exciting part of the process. And then when I reread it, I revise, I make notes, changes, and then that's like, the second draft, the revision. And then I just keep going, until it's polished and I hand it off to an editor. But I do need a break. Every time I do a first draft, I got to have a break and go to something else to clear the head. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. It's just like writing music. Same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you can get tired of, even at band practice, doing a set list of the same old songs and stuff. You want to mix it up and maybe bring out some other songs we haven't done in a while, and try to keep things interesting, if you will.
What, in your opinion, man, are the most important elements of a good horror book or novel? What's the draw for you, Jeremy?
Number one are the characters are the most important thing to me, because the characters drive the novel, or the story. And I want characters I can care about, even the bad guys, man. Like, there's the book Red Dragon. I always cite this book because I love it so much. In Red Dragon, you got the FBI agent, good guy, who, you like right away, and you discover he's actually been through some terrifying things in the past, and it's amazing he survived, and you latch on to him and you care about him. But even even the bad guy, Francis Dollarhide in Red Dragon, is so screwed up because of stuff that happened to him in his childhood, and how his upbringing and all these other things had such a bad effect on him. They turned into this, psychopath. And with that, even though he does, God, man, some atrocious, horrendous things, part of you feels sorry for this maniac, and you sympathize with him. And that's the beauty of a strong character, that to hook you in. So the characters in any story, for me personally, that's number one for me. I really got to care about and love these characters in a book or a story, short story, whatever. And then, of course, you want to have an original plot. You want to have a plot that has, hopefully original situations and dynamics that you haven't read about before. And with all that, you take that whole package, characters and plot and originality, you put all that in a package with an author's voice. And the author's voice, you also want to hear that voice. And by that, I mean, when you read a book by a great author you love, or a new author who's just exceptional, you can tell, man, right away that their voice is there. You're reading that voice, you're hearing it in your head. It's like an original stamp. It's like the friggin' tone of a band, dude. Like,
yep.
An AC/DC song when you hear AC/DC.
For
A
sure.
Metallica song or a Slayer song.
For sure.
When you hear, let's go, the great friggin' Dimebag Darrell, Pantera. When you hear fucking that guitar tone or Phil Anselmo's vocals, it's Pantera. It's the same thing with a voice. I can pick up a Stephen King novel and tell it's Stephen King right away. Mario Puzo, who wrote The Godfather, one of my favorite books of all time, original voice, man. Nick Pizzolatto, great author, wrote this book, Galveston. He's the guy who created True Detective for HBO series. Those people have original voices. So that's also huge for me, So characters, plot, and the author's voice, all that together is important to me, and I feel what makes books great when all that stuff's done the right way.
When you said detective and all that stuff, that threw me back to 1995 in the movie with Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman. The song or the movie Seven.
Yeah. The movie Seven.
Yes, sir. Yeah,
that's a great movie,
yes,
man. I love that friggin' movie.
It's highly, highly underrated. Highly underrated. Yeah.
It's so good, man. Oh, you're not kidding, man. That's awesome.
It sure is. It sure is, brother. If you could write, Jeremy, a book or novel about a serial killer, who would it be and why, possibly? If you could pick any of them, maybe.
You know what? It's funny you ask, because I just had a discussion about this not too long ago. There's a couple of serial killers that I've done a lot of research on that I guess I can't get them like out from my psyche, if you will. Like they've always stuck with me, and that would be Ed Gein and Albert Fish. If you're familiar with those two guys, I don't know what it is about them. It's not just the crimes they committed, but it's like even psychologically where their heads are at. Those guys are two serial killers that I'm completely fascinated with. Now, in some respects, they say Ed Gein may not have been, a serial killer. He's more of a murderer and a grave robber and stuff. But still, he's up there with, as far as being, notorious and legendary. So those guys, those two in particular, I'm just fascinated with. I always say, it's weird that, it sounds weird when you say, my favorite serial killer is, like saying who your favorite movie star is or something, because I don't want to, celebrate the horrible deeds they've done, but
right.
From a person like me who's who treads in dark territory, and much like an abnormal psychologist who studies abnormal human behavior, or FBI profilers or whatever. I have a great interest in people that do these things, like Ed Gein or Albert Fish did, or Jeffrey Dahmer too, man. I'm like, what makes a person do this? That's the first question that propels my interest. Why and what made them do this? And then I do a bunch of research. So that's a reason there's a whole genre of true crime books out there that people just eat up and turn into bestsellers, because people want to read about true crimes, and it's almost like it's a sobering reminder that there's real life monsters in our midst, and that type of thing, if you follow me. So anyway, that's kind of my take on serial killers, true crime, and a couple in particular who I'm definitely always been fascinated by. Yeah.
My brother, how can folks stay in touch with you? Pick up your books, this Conjoined and Grotesque art exhibit, your music. How can they do that, my friend?
Yeah, real easy, man. Everything you want to know that I'm doing, or news, everything in my world, you can go to my official website, which is Jeremy, Jeremy Wagner, WAGNER.com, Jeremy-Wagner.com. And you can also follow me, on Instagram and Twitter, which is at Jeremy X Wagner. That's the handle for both my Instagram and Twitter. And then I also have an official, author Facebook page, and that's easy to find me. I think that's also Jeremy X Wagner author or something. So, but yeah, those are the best ways to see what I'm up to, what news is going on, and all that stuff, man.
As always, thank you so much for everything you do, man, and I love having you on my show. Before I let you go, would you care to do a promo for the show again?
Yeah, I'd be happy to, man, and also thanks for having me on your show again. It was a real pleasure, man. I really appreciate it. Hey, this is Jeremy Wagner, horror author and guitarist for Broken Hope, and you're listening to BODS Mayhem Hour.
Everybody stick around. We got some great music coming up, and you only hear these interviews right here on BODS Mayhem Hour and BODS Mayhem Radio Network. Please, everybody, check out our Facebook page. Of course, it's BODS Mayhem Hour. You'll keep up there, and we'll have all the links for our podcast, our YouTube site, all that good stuff. And please get out and check out Jeremy Wagner's books and all the stuff that he's done, plus with Broken Hope. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Jeremy, for everything again, man.
My pleasure, and thank you again, my friend. Great talking to you.